From one-time projects for the future that were victims of those dreaded budget cuts, to iconic performers not being treated with the respect and care they deserve during their last run in the company, this bunch of one-time superstars look to be undoubtedly done with McMahon and his millions. I'm Gareth from WhatCulture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestlers who will never work for WWE again and why. Number 10, Sting. The sight of the legendary Sting making his presence known at Survivor Series 2014 was enough to leave even the most bitter WWE watcher with a smile on their mug. Yet that WWE debut would unfortunately turn out to be Stinger's finest hour as part of the monstrous machine, with a losing first appearance on the grandest stage, and an injury mid-WWE Championship challenge being the only other actions of note. And the fact the icon stayed put in the promotion for a further 5 years post Night of Champions debacle only added further fuel to the idea that, as the star put it himself, he was sadly disappearing with his tail between his legs. The Sting seen lending his mystique/star power to the next generation in AEW is quite simply worlds away from the depressing figure he cut towards the end of his WWE run. Factoring in the reality of WWE probably not being in too much of a rush to risk the legend getting seriously injured under their watch, and the WCW icon likely wanting to see out his last few flickers of in-ring action in a company that seems to genuinely value him, and Sting remaining all elite becomes as certain as his face hiding behind a Sting mask. Number 9, Gail Kim. Attempting twice to make an impact, pun intended, in Vinnie Mac's empire, both stints brought with them a whole host of what could have beens for the former Knockouts champion and all-round Impact legend Gail Kim. Not even winning the women's title on her first night on the job could save Kim from ultimately being mishandled and fumbled. And her return from 2008 onwards only proved to be more fatal in confirming that she had no place in late noughties WWE. A bitter end, choosing to eliminate herself within the first minute of a battle royal as one final middle finger to those deciding her fate, and a messy departure eventually all but guaranteed Kim's now firm stance on keeping away from the company. Even when WWE appeared to be assembling the most stacked women's-only card of modern times, Kim refused to play ball, claiming that she was happy for the women in the company, but if I ever made a return, it would only be for Impact Wrestling. Number 8, CM Punk. Another star left feeling entirely disappointed and borderline broken by his last experience with Vince McMahon and his cronies. There was a time when it appeared as though CM Punk was entirely done with the business of pro wrestling. In actual fact, though, the best in the world was only finished with sports entertainment. Who knew? Despite bridges seemingly being slightly rebuilt by way of appearances on WWE Backstage, Punk's actual employment by Fox only ended up acting as yet another reminder of just how far apart the voice of the voiceless and McMahon still were on the matter of officially bringing him back aboard the ship that left him needing 7 years to recover. In the end, though WWE was said to have made attempts to convince him otherwise, Punk decided that an all-elite chapter suited him best, and he's been proven right and then some in the critically acclaimed months that have followed the first dance. Only cementing his lack of desire to return to WWE even more, Punk has also gone on record to state to NYC radio host Josh Martinez, "There's a formula and I was bored of that 10 years ago, so I'm bored of it now." Number 7, Ryback. You ended up being the biggest disappointment for me personally from loving you growing up, but I wish you well in retirement and future good health. In case the one-time hungriest man under WWE contract needed another reason to firmly plant himself on Vince McMahon's blacklist, Ryback's recent, typically sensitive words aimed at a retiring Triple H provided him with precisely that. Yet this surreal choice of words merely acts as the tip of the pointed iceberg when it comes to the frosty relationship shared between the big guy and his former employers. Disgusting comments on McMahon's mother and the WWE chairman's upbringing, claiming WWE poster boy John Cena to be poison, and even stating the world will be a better place when Vince is gone, have seemingly made any hopes those few Ryback fans out there had of seeing the hulking former IC champion pop up in WWE ever again non-existent at best. Now may be the time to listen to his own Twitter poll. Number 6, Eva Marie. More than a few heads were understandably scratched upon hearing the news that WWE had opted to bring back a performer famed more for wardrobe malfunctions than she was in ring quality in 2021. And with said return of Eva Marie coming around the time budget cuts were being cited as a reason for kissing goodbye to the likes of Mickie James, Chelsea Green, and some other iconic faces, you had to imagine WWE had some seriously bold plans for the actor, fashion designer, and fitness influencer this time around. That was hilariously not the case, as would later come to light. Instead, on the back of countless intentionally provocative vignettes, citing an evolution being right around the corner, get it? Marie was paired with an eventual dewdrop, went back and forth with her one-time mate, and then got emphatically trounced at SummerSlam by Alexa Alexa Bliss, before being written out of the company in September en route to an eventual release in November. What a run! The wholly negative reaction to her comeback, clear lack of return on their investment, and Marie's desire to pursue projects away from the ring look to have hammered 3 decisive nails into her WWE coffin once and for all. Number 5. Ric Flair. The fact Michael Cole and Pat McAfee routinely referred to the Nature Boy as Charlotte Flair's father when alluding to the legendary wrestling figure at the most recent WrestleMania Backlash Premium Live event speaks volumes about how the promotion view Ric Flair at time of recording. Hot on the heels of allegations made against Flair for his actions on the plane ride from hell being brought back into the spotlight, thanks to the Dark Side of the Ring episode on the unsettling event, WWE made serious efforts to distance themselves from the well-known in-ring icon. Flair was quickly stripped away from WWE's opening signature package, had his merchandise taken off the WWE shop, and a Ric Flair Storytime episode centered on him flashing flight attendants during the aforementioned incident was also removed from the network. And while WWE do have a history of eventually letting bygones be bygones no matter how controversial the figure, Flair's defiant attitude towards said distancing and constant blasting of the man Becky Lynch appear to be doing him no favors with a company who won't be looking to piss off their many sponsors or partners anytime soon. Number 4. Alberto Del Rio. Keeping in the vein of controversial presences WWE will not be touching with a barge pole in the coming years, Alberto Del Rio's return to Vince McMahon's playground still evidently seems like a genuine possibility to the negative headline magnet. But further reports of the biggest wrestling promotion on the planet, alongside the likes of AEW, Impact and MLW all having zero interest in offering him a deal, appear to have buried those hopeful claims. And it's not too difficult to see why said companies are not in a hurry to bring in the former World Heavyweight Champion either, with Del Rio being accused of kidnapping and sexual assault recently, before those charges were admittedly dropped, and his messy past relationship with WWE personality Paige being just a few of the real-life incidents that make him an undesirable talent to acquire. Adding to that Del Rio's newfound role as a Spanish-language commentator to the UFC, and likely more trouble than what he's worth in the long run seems to be somewhat doubtful. Number 3. The Iconics. Thoroughly crapping the bed when it came to 2 performers who acted as one of the only genuinely interesting duos within a paper-thin women's tag team division, and a set of singles entities with some serious upside if given the time to develop. WWE's decision to release iconic stars Peyton Royce and Billie Kay instantly looked like a serious misstep in April 2021. Sure enough, the pair of talented ladies absolutely smashed it whilst plying their trade in Impact Wrestling, following on from their non-compete clauses expiring, while Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay's activities away from the squared circle also seem to highlight their untapped superstar potential even further. Producing a podcast together under the name of Off Their Chops, Lee in particular would also note how the charismatic former WWE Women's and Knockouts Tag Team Champions had been taking acting classes for years with the intention of pursuing acting once they're done with wrestling. With news breaking recently of the pair's sudden retirement from in-ring competition and their recent rejection of WWE's offer of a place in this year's Royal Rumble match, it looks like these ladies feel their future lies away from McMahon's machine and wrestling as a whole. Number 2. Enzo Amore. While one W. Morrissey seems to very much be back on WWE's radar in the wake of triumphantly turning his life around over the last few years, the one cannot be said of the former Big Cass's one-time tag partner. Despite at one point being positioned as the star to spearhead WWE's now long since dismantled 205 Live show, Enzo Amore's controversial departure from the company and subsequent behavior post-exit have made him persona non grata within Vince McMahon's walls. Suspended following on from sexual assault allegations and ultimately fired for not informing the company about the subsequent investigation of the matter underway, that still didn't stop Amore from turning up to Survivor Series 2018 unannounced, before being booted out of the Staples Center and given a lifelong ban at the venue naturally. Yet what it did stop was any chance of him seemingly returning as a WWE employee, as Triple H openly expressed having absolutely zero interest in bringing the star back into the landscape back in 2019. And even with WrestleVote reporting how Enzo and Cass still had supporters within the company as recently as last year, the latter being offered a second chance is the likeliest of outcomes at this time. Number 1. Jon Moxley. One all-elite star who most definitely won't be following in an American Nightmare's footsteps can currently be found brutalizing Tony Khan's talent as part of the Blackpool Combat Club. And while former AEW EVP Cody Rhodes was all too happy to take golden shovel shots at his now current employer when on the outside looking in, those anything but subtle attacks pale in comparison to Jon Moxley's scathing assessment of the WWE system, ripping into his one-time home and boss as being nothing more than a bunch of MFers just playing violins, while the ship sinks and Vince continues to lose his mind. When assessing the Juggernaut in his recent book, Max, the former Shield pillar clearly still bears the scars from a demoralizing closing stretch to his WWE career. Though openly admitting he would listen to a call from WWE in the future, the fact he would also add, "I highly doubt we would ever be on the same page," in the same breath, tells you all you need to know about Mox's desire to give up shedding blood and being his unfiltered self anytime soon. That ends our list. So are there any other wrestlers who will never work for WWE again that I've missed? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you're fond of this kind of thing, then head on over to WhatCulture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from WhatCulture Wrestling. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye.